Welcome back. If you've been listening to the videos, you know by now know that New York was both the disease and the cure during enslavement. It had a slave market and many slaves. On the cure side, there are many abolitionists and segment of the Underground Railroad. We're starting at 36 Lispenard Street. But first, I'd like to mention that whenever I'm doing this kind of research, whether on contemporary or historical figures, what I'm really drawn to is how fiercely Black people loved other Black people and their relentless quest for our liberation, so that today we might even dream of thriving while Black. So this brings me to where I'm starting in terms of on the Underground Railroad. And this is at 36 Lispenard Street in what we're now calling Tribeca. And here we're going to meet our beloved ancestor, David Ruggles. David Ruggles was born in 1810. He was the first of 7 children born to 2 free Black parents in Norwalk, Connecticut. His father was a blacksmith and his mother a well-known caterer and a founding member of the Methodist Church. So seriously, David could have decided, you know what, I'm going to become a blacksmith or maybe a minister, and I'm going to have a family, and I'm just going to have a simple life. And had that been his choice, that would have been a good choice. Because when you're in a caustic, abusive, oppressive system, whatever choice you make about your survival is the right choice. There's no judgment here. But he chose a different path, and we're happy that he did. In 1827, at the age of 17, he arrives in New York City as a mariner. A year later, he opened a grocery store. And that grocery store on 1 Courtlanded Street became a circulating library and reading room for Black people who were denied access to public libraries. It also became the first Black-owned bookstore, and there he sold anti-slavery publications, and that attracted the attention of white terrorists, and a white mob came and burnt down his store. Unfazed, unbothered, undeterred, he moved up to what we're saying is the stop on the Underground Railroad, 34 Lispenard Street, where he continued what he had done, what he had been doing, and this would also be a boarding house. Between 1838 to 1841, he wrote, printed, and published the first journal by an African American, The Mirror of Liberty. So far, you must be getting a sense that David Ruggles became one of the most hated abolitionists, and some Black people, Black activists, also thought he was too extreme. In terms of the Black activists, again, sometimes within our community, you have radical Black activists and you have the more conservative one. And the caution is always coming from a place of self-preservation. They think if you're too radical, you might attract violence, and the violence will be meted out against all of them in the community, all of us. So, of course, I understand the caution. Usually, whatever we're doing, it's usually, there is some self-preservation at its base. So I'm just sharing that their views are not always right, but it helps to understand where a person is coming from. He was hated because of his methods. Unlike most conductors on the Underground Railroad, he was visible, out and proud, not closeted. He helped at least 600 enslaved people gain freedom, including Frederick Douglass. He was the founder of the New York Committee on Vigilance, which fought against the capturing and kidnapping and enslaving of runaway and free people. He would physically confront slave catchers. The consequences of his fearless love for his people were he had some attempted kidnappings, attempted lynchings, multiple assaults. He spent all his money on the movement. He lost his eyesight for the people, and he became so ill that he had to leave New York City. He temporarily recovered for a while in Massachusetts using the water cure or hydropathic medicine, but he still succumbed to the wounds and the damage he endured in New York City. And at the young age of 39, he died for the love of the people. So he's actually a total hero who died for his people. So, what are the takeaways that I have from this life? He was like just this candle, just this flame that he went all into the movement and he burned himself out. First, I just bask in that kind of the sunshine of his love, because that love is so intense. Like, it's one thing if you're enslaved and you want to get your freedom. It's another thing if you were brought up in a house where people were enslaved and you want to get yours and theirs. But he had a choice. He could choose to just keep his head down and live a normal life, but he chose love for his people. He chose this. So that love is like, it's really bubbling up inside of me just to hear that. The second thing I would caution is, hey, I am not suggesting that you burn out like that for the people. I would suggest some kind of balance, that always in our journey here, it should be about neighbor love and self-love. That, yes, be in the movement, but also try to keep yourself safe. Try to enjoy this life that we have. Try to love yourself passionately, and people around you passionately who love you back. And third, which is obvious, that we learn to love each other as fiercely as he did. You know, it's like we're not monolithic. We're going to disagree on many things. Our religion, our food choices, the games we play, we're going to disagree. And yeah, it's not this, we're not monolithic. We're diverse within this body, and it's okay. But we should love each other fiercely. And the fourth and final thing that I am taking away is, how can we build new underground railroad to cope with the next 4 years? How can we have these black oasis of safety? They didn't let them go into the library. He made a library. He made a bookstore. They wanted to snatch their bodies. He stood in the way of that. And yeah, he just kept on trying to bring an oasis of thriving for Black people. And for me, I don't know the answer myself. I'm trying to figure out how to be that, how to be part of Black oasis of thriving, that people might feel safe and be able to cope for the next 4 years. So again, I am absolutely grateful for those of you who have been watching and listening. I appreciate any feedback and comments. And as the young people say, stay Black. Thank you.